Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
Hello, Forgers, and welcome to episode 20 of Heroes Forge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. This is your show host, Jeff Reynolds, and as always, I am joined by the show co-host, Kristen Ashton. What's up, Kristen?
Not too much today, Jeff. What's up with you?
Nothing. Lots going on still in the Heroes world, lots going on in the video game world. I mean, video game life is great.
It is. It's a perfect time to be a video gamer because on the horizon we have VR, which could turn out to be fantastic. And currently we have the PCs finally beating out the consoles. So now everything is on PC. I love it.
Yeah. You know, growing up, I was all consoles. I was all consoles all the way. So now I have PC and, I can see all the different mods and things that you can do on your PC and all the games you can have available on Steam. I mean, there's a lot of games out there that you get to try for free. This week I tried a new game called Brawlhalla. Have you heard of that game?
I did, and I looked at it a little bit, and I laughed so hard. The two-dimensional brawler, I mean, the voiceover they got makes it sound exactly like Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
And it's just little pixel people beating the crap out of one another.
Yeah, it plays a lot like Smash Brothers. It's basically Smash Brothers, but it has a really cool weapon aspect to it where, you're picking up weapons and your character has a specific set of weapons that you can mod out with in-game purchases, and when you pick up a weapon you're stronger. It's very cool and it's free. So, I mean, I was down to try it, download it. I hooked up my Xbox controller to it and it definitely feels like Smash Brothers.
Nice. Now, since it's called Brawlhalla, I'm assuming Call to Valhalla, is the pantheon of characters you can play, are they gods from different cultural mythologies?
Yeah, I think that's what they're going for. I don't remember their names, and I didn't draw that conclusion like right off the bat. I didn't get to select Zeus or something like that where, I get to play as one of those gods, but I did notice that they are, the toons look like the gods in a way, and there's a whole bunch of different cultures represented, and some of them look, there's a pirate, so maybe not all around, the gods that we think of when it comes to, Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, and all of those sorts of things, but it's really, really fun and silly. Nothing feels so good when you're playing a game like Smash Brothers or Brawlhalla and you just hit the crap out of somebody, they go flying off the screen and explode. I found myself laughing a lot. So try Brawlhalla if you haven't tried it yet, because it's a bunch of fun. You can get on Steam for free, early access. What about you, Kristen? What games are you playing?
Right now, I am stumbling my way through Fatal Frame 3 with the strength of the people that join me on those Saturday nights, because I have found the scariest part of that game so far. And let's just say I did not get a good night's sleep last night.
Oh, I've never even heard of it. Is it really good?
It is. The first one I ever came across was Fatal Frame 2. And the whole idea is that you've got a partner, they go missing in some creepy place, and you get a camera that can exorcise ghosts.
Oh.
So you have to take pictures of crazy ghosts in order to advance.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying. Because I bet when you take a picture, they just show up.
Exactly. You hear them coming before you see them. In this third one, they use a lot of vibration controls for the controller. So, of course, if a ghost is nearby but you can't see it, you'll still get that slight vibration, which will set you on edge.
Oh, that is so cool, though. What a great little 4D aspect in there, that's throwing something at you or that you don't even think of that it would be there. Oh, awesome. Well, how far in? Did you complete the game yet?
No, not yet. I think I may have gone about halfway, but the average completion time is something like 15 hours. Whoa. So it may not even be halfway.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. So it's a good game. Well, you have to let me know how it goes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in Heroes right now, too. Have you had a chance to play Chromie at all in the PTR?
I have touched Chromie a little bit in the trial, the PTR, but yeah. I'm waiting for when she releases on Tuesday because I have enough gold. And the Into the Nexus pre-show is going to be a Chromie day.
Awesome. I played her just a little bit, just like you, and it's definitely a different feel. You know, you've got those Asmo dunk basically moves where you're trying to shoot that dragon, or you're trying to hit heroes with your Q ability, and only heroes. I mean, it's a really cool concept that they've come up with that makes her different than most other assassins.
It does. And how about the fact that you get your talent a level earlier, which you think would be good? You think, awesome, that means I'll be that much stronger. But you didn't take into account that now the enemy team can counterpick.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that. Oh, yeah, that's very... the first thing, like you said, I said, that's really cool and maybe OP, but now they can pick against what you're picking. I haven't even delved into it enough, like into the talents and traits enough, but I'm excited for this week, too. You know, it's a big week for heroes, and even bigger ones coming, like we talked about last week with the ranked system coming into play. And again, listen to Into the Nexus on Amove. They cover all of the really cool heroes news and stuff like that. So they're an awesome podcast to listen to as well. And speaking of awesome podcasts and awesome podcast listeners, we have an announcement that is so cool. It makes me smile so big. We got our very first HeroesForge patron, Dan N. We really want to thank you for becoming our first patron of the show. And thank you. I don't know what else to say. We were really happy to have a supporter. And if you would like to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/HeroesForge. We have our own patron account over there, and you can look at all of the awesome goals that we have planned for the future of this show. We want to bring you guys more content. We want to be able to give you the ability to vote for what heroes we have on the show. We want to be able to give you guys more episodes, including Battleground Forges, where we kind of just pool together ideas on what cool battlegrounds we'd like to see in the game. So again, thank you, Dan, for supporting the show. We really appreciate it. It's awesome.
We do. Thank you so much.
Super cool, and there's lots going on. So I think we need to start this. You know what? Let's forge.
Let's forge.
All right, Kristen, this week is our special week of the month where we do what we call the Forger Spotlight. We take an idea from the community and we turn it into a show. We take any of your ideas out there, and you can always send us ideas to our email address, which is contactheroesforge@gmail.com, or you can visit our website, which is heroesforge.club. Over there on the contact tab, you can send us your ideas about who you want to see on the show, or if you have any ideas otherwise about things that we have forged on the show already. So, Kristen, give us a little intro on who we are forging this week.
Can do, Jeff. Now, I do want to state before we release who we're forging that this Forger Spotlight is a bit different because we didn't receive a full build. Instead, this week's pick was given to us by True Villain Manny a while ago, who really wanted to see this hero in the Nexus. And
Awesome.
So this week we are honoring that, and we are bringing to life Sif from the famed Ulduar dungeon in Northrend.
You know, that is so cool. I don't want to say give up, but I stopped playing Warcraft before it got to that point because I believe she's from the 3rd expansion, correct?
Let's see. It was Burning Crusade, then
Wrath, I think.
Oh, it was Wrath. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
released, so I guess the second one?
Oh, yeah, the 2nd expansion. The 3rd, yeah, if you count vanilla. So, but I've heard nothing about this raid but awesome things.
Yeah, the reviews when I was going through this were all gleaming. The story, the design, the difficulty, it all melded together into this perfect creation of artistic endeavor by the WoW team.
It makes me want to play it so bad. I want to play it. I want to, see all these things. I got to watch all of these videos when I was doing my research about Sif, and it just looks so cool. And I just want to talk about it, but I want to hear a little bit of background about Sif in the Warcraft universe, in Wrath of the Lich King. Give it to us, Kristen.
Okay. Wife of Thor in Norse mythology, and wife of Thorim in Blizzard mythology. Not much is known about the Lady Sif. Perhaps she won the Hildsmeet, a competition held by the Hildnir to find Thorim a wife. Perhaps she ensnared his heart with her wit and wiles. Either way, her death brought about a deep depression in Thorim, heavily implying their marriage was far more than political maneuvering. And maybe that's why Thorim was not of mind to question her reappearance within the halls of Ulduar. Maybe that's why he followed her command to attack those that would invade the sanctum to supposedly kill him. Though in actuality a tentacle of Yogg-Saron, the false Sith of Ulduar still remains a threat to all those that would dare enter the keep's corrupted halls, forever whispering tainted provocations into the deceived ears of a once great titan.
Great. Oh, yeah. That is such a good story. You know, we've seen this in a lot of different video games, movies, books where, you know, someone that you believe has, you know, died or passed on and comes back and sort of plays with the fate and future, and you're not really sure if this person exists or not, if they're the real person or not. This really gets to me. I really like this lore.
You do. So do you have an example of that you really, really gravitate toward, like a different story but similar?
I'm not sure. You see this a lot in that Greek mythology, right? Where you're not sure if it's actually, you know, one of the gods that's being represented by, you know, a clone or someone that's trying to manipulate the situation by pretending to be someone else. I'm reading The Way of Kings now, and there's a little bit in there. It's a book by Brandon Sanderson. There's a little bit in there where, you know, shapeshifters or people that are, you know, like in Harry Potter as well, when they forget to take the polymorph juice and all that stuff, and you're pretending to be someone inside of this story that's a pivotal character, and in actual reality, it's not that person, but that, you know, that metamorphosis of that person is changing the story. Does that make sense?
It does. It totally does. And I mean, if we really want to go to a rather, I'm going to say corny example, we could always go to episode 2 of the Star Wars series.
Yes.
And the chasing down of that body shifter.
Definitely, yeah. In the city, I believe they're chasing them through on the speeders and all of that stuff. Yes. And yeah, a very corny example, but a very good one because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so agreed. Very cool. So Sith is our choice for this week. Awesome Forger Spotlight. True Villain Manny, great suggestion. So let's go ahead and get started. So if this is your first time listening to the show, as always, welcome to the show. This was submitted to us by a listener. So what we did is we each built a build. Kristen built one and I did as well. And we're going to just banter back and forth about the ideas that we have. And the first place that we always start is, what would this character's role classification be if they were in Heroes of the Storm? We're going to try to bring them to life in the Nexus. So mine was actually a little bit off the wall, but I wanted to make her a little bit different because, well, we'll get into it. But I think that she would be a support.
I like it.
It's different, right?
It is, because she does damage.
Yeah, in the game, you know, from what I've seen, again, I haven't played it, but from what I've seen in the videos of people running the raid and doing all of this, she basically acts as a distraction, and she is a frost mage in the game. So she's running around throwing, you know, all the normal strong frost mage spells and all of that stuff. So I had a few ideas, so I went with support, but what were you thinking?
I went with assassin / off tank, but more assassin than off tank, where her melee are basic attacks, but her abilities are range.
Oh, that's really cool. I was going to say that's a really interesting combination of those two different roles, assassin and off tank. Oh, I can't wait to hear what your ideas are. Let's get started then. Kristen, the next thing we'll talk about is her trait. So what were you thinking for the assassin build of Sif's trait?
For this one, I'm going to go with raid obstacle. And when she is near 2 or more of her teammates, Sif cannot be targeted by enemy abilities. Any damage received is greatly reduced.
Great. I mean, that's straight from the raid because from what I've seen, again, you can't attack her. This is the hard mode of the raid. Ulduar, and you can't attack her while you're trying to fulfill the final boss fight. She's just there dealing damage, jumping around, jumping back and forth, and you have to go through some serious stuff to even get her there to be able to complete it. You have to do it pretty fast, I believe. So that's great. So you can't target her. Mine is very similar on the support side. I said the trait would be called untargetable.
Oh, well, there we go.
Great minds again. So to have a true feeling of the illusion of the Sif in Ulduar, which she is an illusion made by Yogg-Saron, like you said in the little lore lesson at the beginning, she'd have to be untargetable. In the Nexus, I imagine that she would be able to activate her trait and become untargetable for a short period of time. This trait wouldn't use mana, but could only be activated after a long cooldown. This ability would make Sif an extremely survivable support hero, and it could be activated during a team fight to either save a player or also give them the ability to focus on supporting a different team member.
I love it. And I love supports that make you think you can kill them, and then they cast something like this, and you go, darn it, now I have to change targets.
Yeah, it's very similar idea to yours. You know, not being able to be targeted would be a huge, I mean, we've seen it. So this is the thought that I had, and I wanted to ask you, do you think, so they can't be targeted, but are they still affected by AoE damage and spells?
I was thinking that too, because as we know from the dungeon, she can't be dealt damage either. At least when Thorim is alive during that first phase. So I was of the mindset, in order to keep her from being too OP quite yet, that she would still be able to take damage.
Yeah, I think
just
in
not directly.
Heroes. Yeah, in Heroes she would have to take damage, you know, because it would be super OP if, I mean, that's a really heroic thing to make yourself. That's a divine shield, basically, that can get you out of things. So, yeah, I think she'd still have to be able to take damage from effects that are just not targeted at her, but she runs into.
Exactly. And that would also require some skill from the player so that they're just not, oh, this is easy mode. GG, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Don't want to make her too easy. All right, two really cool traits. Let's move on to mounts. I said that Sif would ride a normal mount, but what were you thinking?
I was going with Jormungand, the world serpent,
Oh.
destined at the end of days during Ragnarok to fight Thor.
That's really cool. That's a little bit of, yeah, that's really cool. I've seen the models of that, you know, or the drawings of all of those different mounts that came from there. That is a really cool idea. I thought maybe she would ride one of those. If she had a specialty mount, she could also ride one of those huge frost dragons that they have that come out in the epic mounts. Sometimes you can even get them armored in World of Warcraft, you know, if you've got the epic flying mount that looks like a dragon. I just really want more dragons.
I think we all do. I think if anything, we need to just close the book on Heroes of the Storm and rebirth it as Dragons of the Storm. And it's just dragons. That's all we need.
All of the Warcraft dragons, you know, you can even put some other characters that don't even really exist. Just make more dragons.
Yeah, that's all we want.
Is dragons. Cool, let's get into the meat of the show. Let's talk about basic abilities for Sif. On my end, my very first basic ability for support would be Frost Armor. When this ability is activated, Sif gives a friendly hero a Frost Shield. This Frost Shield would give the friendly hero armor to absorb some of the incoming damage from the enemy team. After it is cast, the shield leaks a dry ice-like smoke for a period of time. This smoke would slow enemy units that attack the hero with the shield. A different kind of shield that would not only protect, but also force the enemy to make decisions on who to attack in battle.
That's a really cool idea. I mean, why haven't they made shields that have secondary effects like that? That is amazing.
Yeah, because I feel like, you know, when Tassadar gets a bad rap. I know in the pro scene he's really good, and those guys really know how to use him. You know, in my scene though, in the lower leagues of Hero League, Tassadar is rarely picked because I think it takes a lot of teamwork. It takes a lot of practice. Those force walls are hard for people that, you know, don't know the game or just starting to learn the game. So, it's difficult. So I thought this would give kind of an edge to the shield feel.
It would, and it would make shields even more important. And imagine, too, you taking that further, each of the talents, you could make the shield dissolve into something else. So it wouldn't always have to be a slow. It could be a root, maybe. That's another thing that we know from Jaina ice can do.
Yeah, and and that's a really good point to bring up Jaina, because Sif in the game, the illusion of Sif from Yogg Saron is a frost mage. She's using a lot of frost abilities. So that was something that I know probably both of us wanted to kind of work around to try to make her not exactly like Jaina. So when I go into my memory bank of everything that happens with frost mages, frost armor is one of those things. So that's kind of where that derived from. But on your end, that had to be a little harder, because if you're building an assassin, that's tough. So what were you thinking for her Q?
It is. Well, this one I'm going with something I really, really liked from the description of her in the raid, and the fact that she teleports around the room. But I also wanted to combine that with her frost blast explosions, because that's a cool part of what she is. So I thought it would be more of a teleport blast. And costing very little mana and on a short cooldown, Sif can teleport a short distance. As soon as she reappears, she explodes out a frost nova that briefly roots and does damage to all nearby enemies. I also wanted to do that too, because I really, really like Li Ming. When she teleports and where she appears, she does damage. So incorporate some ice in there and you got something Sif can do.
Yeah, very good. Total assassin trait, or total assassin ability there. And that can be used in a ton of different ways to get out, just like Li Ming. I love that too, because you think you're safe. I play a lot of Morales, so when you're around Li Ming, you're never safe really, or Illidan. When they just jump you, you're dead, and it takes a lot of practice to get away from that. So that's a very frustrating but awesome feeling, and I think it's total assassin. Vala has it. They all have that sort of feel, except for Jaina, really, because she did have Bolt of the Storm at one point, did she not, where she could teleport?
I believe she did. I really want to say that she did.
Yeah, so when she had that, maybe she had that sort of feeling, but just being able to get in, get out, maybe jump in and throw a basic ability or something at someone that's just about to go down. Then you got to get out, though, which is another thing. So
exactly. But I wanted this too, with the little mana and short cooldown. I wanted her to be a character where teleporting was a part of what she was. It's not like you have 3 charges and then you better hope you get enough time to cool those down, but to be able to use it all the time.
Yeah, and very true. Straight from the raid videos I watched, she's jumping all over the place, and especially because she can't be targeted, that's an annoying part of what you're fighting without fighting it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's like an itch you can't scratch.
Ugh, it's the worst. Or like water torture, where they drop water droplets on you, and you just can't do anything about it. Completely off topic. Well, let's talk about your second basic ability for your assassin build.
This one I'm going with Snowball Volley. You could go Frostbolt, but I just wanted to go with Snowball. A channeled ability that can be interrupted. Sif targets one enemy and shoots a barrage of snowballs that slow and do damage.
Great. So more slowing, more CC, quote unquote, for, a CC, like we talk about all the time. It feels so good to capture somebody or lock somebody down, but it's got the complete opposite feeling when you are locked down yourself.
Yep, when it happens to you, you often go through the many, many reasons why you're still playing this silly game, and you probably have better things to do that you're better at. It was your team, they let you down. Maybe you're tired, but probably not. It's your team.
GG.
Yeah, thanks, team.
Thanks, Team GG. I love that, though. That's got a definite feel. So is she throwing the snowballs, or are they just launching?
It wouldn't be super silly. The visuals of the snowballs I really, really liked. And I wanted to differentiate her from Jaina, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I figured snow is a bit different from the ice. So this would be very much like the spells in WoW when you channel them. So there's that visual string of color and then the little bolts that travel through it. So you can see when she's channeling. So it would give the enemy team the ability to interrupt if they wanted, if they could.
Oh, yeah. The total assassin feel again. I love it. It's awesome. Over on the support side, on my side, I called my second ability Frozen Fractal. But
Did you now?
I did.
Are they all around?
They are all around. So Sif smashes her foot into the ground, and in front of her, a large icicle jets up from below the battlefield. This icicle acts as a barrier for all players, like the walls near towers, only very small. Players must navigate around them or destroy them. And to make it even more interesting, they always jut out of the ground in a different irregular shape and direction. This ability would give the support player the ability to block players or body block players in a path. Then I wrote, think of it like body blocking with icicles. And it could be cast at a pretty long range, I'm believing.
That would be so much fun. I mean, that's pure Elsa right there, as the name would suggest. But so now you don't control where the icicles pop up. So is it a straight shot?
Good question. You do control where they pop up, but you don't control. I'm imagining these giant icicles, or icicle, I should say, because I don't want it to be too big, but just at the size of a hero about that shoots out of the ground at a different direction. So maybe it shoots out angled to the left. So in order to get around it to the left, it would take more time to go around the left than to the right, where it's not leaning that direction. But you don't know, and the enemy team doesn't know which direction this icicle is going to shoot out of the ground. It could shoot straight up. Just acting as like another millisecond or a body block kind of feel. Nothing too OP, locking heroes down or anything like that. Not an Entomb kind of feel, but the same kind of Entomb targeting system where for Leoric has Entomb. So I'm picturing you would see where the icicle would be placed, but then it would just kind of jut out and force them to go around it or destroy it.
Nice. And could you imagine if these icicles also had a talented ability where you could put the dry ice look on them? So if the enemy team got too close, which they would if you're a sneaky Sif, they'd be slowed.
Yeah, and that's got a support feel to it too, trying to get people out of bad fights or, moving on and trying to advance or take somebody out. You could just pop those icicles, those frozen fractals, if you will, up from the ground. So very cool. Lots of great abilities. Let's move on to my third basic over here. I called this one Thin Ice. Sif can freeze the ground in a small area that generates greater movement speed for friendly heroes that enter it. I'm thinking that it would be the exact opposite of Malfurion's roots. Those stun enemy heroes, and Thin Ice would allow friendly heroes to quickly glide over the targeted area. If used correctly, this would be a good ability to use as an escape or to chase down technique.
That's so cool. So that it would be so much fun. So the visuals here are fantastic, Jeff. Like each one of these I can clearly see and I get very, very excited about. So would this be a really long runway? Because the roots are in a circle, but I would imagine, you want space for them to move on so that it could be used for good or for bad in a fight.
Yeah, I'm thinking that that's exactly how it would be. It would go off, maybe not as wide, again, with Entomb, not as wide as an Entomb, because, maybe you could spec into it where it would cover more area. And I am imagining that it would only affect friendly heroes. So if the enemy heroes got onto it, it would be just like the opposite of Malfurion. If we get on his roots and he's on our team, it's not going to affect us. So it's the same kind of feel, but the complete 180.
Gotcha. So the enemy team wouldn't be affected if they stepped on it. It would just be regular terrain.
Yeah. Interesting idea.
That's so cool. And I think I would get excited too because they'd have to do that little reflection animation as well. And it's such a little thing, but it would be such a cool touch.
Yeah, it would be really neat idea and hard to master, I would think, to be able to your team is retreating, they're hitting the retreat, nobody's getting out fast enough. You throw down this ice on the floor and then everybody kind of just slides out. But,
exactly. Or you're trying to help your tank get a body block and you're right behind him. So you throw one immediately in front of him and he doesn't have time to think, but he immediately hits it and slides and has to maneuver around.
Yeah, offensively and defensively. That's a great idea. I didn't think of that. What was your third basic?
I'm going with one called Snowstorm. And Sif calls forth the powers of ice and summons a movable snowstorm. This is denoted by a shadowed area that has rain, that rains down snow and ice, which slows and damages those caught within this area. Though Sif cannot target it, she can alter its direction.
Ooh, that's cool. So like a Hyperion, but you can move it.
Exactly, and not quite as big either. Yeah, I'm thinking, a small, like a relatively contained snowstorm. But yes, one that would be very, very crucial if we're kind of controlling the battlefield.
Yeah, because that's one thing. Once you set off a Hyperion or a Phoenix or any of those AoE effects, you hope that you chose the right direction. If you're trying to prevent them from capturing a tribute or capturing a boss or pushing them off of an objective in general, you have to hope that your Raynor puts that Hyperion going the right direction. And once it passes it, it's kind of just wasted.
Exactly. So imagine if you could call it back. And it wouldn't be fast moving either. So the enemy team would probably be able to dodge it really quickly. But that's also kind of the point. Because you could split their ranks if you were good enough with changing that direction.
Oh, such a great idea. I love that. So not as big, because then it wouldn't feel as OP or heroic is what you mean. And I'm down for that. That is really cool. And that would take a lot of practice to be able to control your hero and that little AoE effect too, right?
Exactly. And imagine, too, if you could isolate somebody right in the beginning of the game and have a team that could follow up on that isolation.
First blood.
Exactly.
This is very cool. Love that idea. Before we get on to the really cool part of the show when we start talking about heroics, I want to talk about iTunes, and I want to thank the Smart Kale for giving us a 5-star review on iTunes. It really helps the show out there. Thank you so much for doing it. It moves us up the ranks when people search for Heroes of the Storm, and then our show gets more listens and more people are opened up to what we do here. So thank you so much, the Smart Kale, for giving us a 5-star review. It helps us out a ton. So head on over there and do that if you enjoy the show. We really appreciate it. And now, let's move on to the best part, my favorite part of the show, forging the heroics.
Heroic.
All right, we got a ton of really powerful, awesome ideas so far. I'm going to give a couple that I think might be a little OP, but could be fun if maybe you and I work together to make it a little less overpowered. So I'll start first. My first heroic ability is called Frozen Orb. This heroic will launch a slow-moving orb in a straight line from Sif. I'm imagining it's the same size as like Li Ming's orb. It doesn't grow like hers does, but it shoots out straight.
Okay.
At its biggest size. The orb travels for a long distance, very slowly, but it is quickly shooting icicle-like projectiles that slow enemy heroes. The orb will prioritize heroes until all heroes in range have been hit. If there are no enemy heroes that have not been affected by this ability, it will auto-prioritize the heroes that have already been affected. If a hero is struck twice, they will freeze in place while remaining targetable. The high-speed projectiles move in straight lines from the orb, so I imagine that they can be dodged.
Oh, wow. That is really cool. So now, when you said orb, I originally thought of Kael'thas's Pyroblast, but I think I really like that galaxy look.
Yeah, but it is that size, and it moves at that speed in my mind. Very good comparison. Yeah.
It's like a Vala's strafe, but you see it coming. Okay, so taking it back here. So Austin Powers. Have you ever seen Austin Powers?
Yeah, I have.
All right, there's that quip for those of you listening who haven't seen it. There's a joke where Austin Powers is on a steamroller and there is a security guard way far off in the distance. Now, the steamroller probably goes half a mile an hour at most, and this 5-minute long scene is quick cuts from Austin going, "Get out of the way, move, move," and the security guard standing there with his hand up going, "Stop!"
Exactly.
So that's how I see this orb.
Wow, a clearer comparison has never been drawn.
Except it wouldn't be so funny if you get hit twice and then you're stuck and you're taking the shots to the face for however long it takes the storm to pass.
Yeah, and so I'm imagining the same kind of idea that you had before about being able to split a team fight in half. So if you shoot that orb straight down the middle, everybody's going to scatter because they don't want to get stuck, because then, I mean, maybe it's OP, maybe it's not, because they have a chance to dodge. I added that at the last second because I thought that's a lot of, area to take up. It is just CC. I don't know. So, but I'm just imagining if you get hit twice, you're frozen. So it's not a complete lockdown like a lot of those other heroic abilities in the game. But it is pretty powerful if the enemy team is escaping. Let's say they're all, running out. If you launch this thing at the right time, they're all going to get slowed. And then once they're all hit, one by one, they may or may not be stuck.
Exactly. And imagine if they're retreating, but you somehow come up around the side or the bottom and then shoot it where they can't see you firing it off. So they run directly into it.
Yeah. So maybe that was my idea. I just really liked that, because when I picture ice and snow, I picture it to be a little slower. That's where I got that feeling from. But we all know in the game, as Jaina, is manipulating ice and snow the whole time, it moves pretty fast. Frost bolts, these blizzards coming down. So I just wanted to change it up a little bit. What were you thinking for her first heroic on your assassin side?
For this one, I'm going with Touch of Dominion. As a construct of Yogg-Saron, Sif is able to subtly probe the minds of her enemies, gaining control for a brief period of time. When channeled, the touched enemy hero's mind allows her to see their abilities and activate them in quick succession. Once done, the link is severed.
Okay, so you're setting the cooldowns basically, or you're shooting off abilities in different directions.
Exactly, and then hopefully draining them of quite a bit of mana as well, and maybe wasting a heroic.
I want this in the game so bad. I want to be able to do a mind control of someone. I mean, we talked about this in previous episodes, maybe even in Deckard Cain or some of the other episodes that we've done, where having the ability to use other people's abilities would be super powerful.
It would, and I think the only other hero we see that is with Abathur, when he takes on the form of one of the teammates, and that is very, very powerful. So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, could you imagine in another situation finally getting able to kind of throw off somebody's rhythm by blowing all of their abilities in one go?
Oh yeah, and more than just somebody, I believe, the whole team. If you were to do this to Uther before the battle began, and you just threw off a divine shield on someone before there's even a full team fight going on, I mean, that's a whole huge heroic that is wasted.
It really is. And it also, too, I think would take a high skill cap, because you'd need to know all of the heroes. You'd need to know their abilities. And you'd probably need to plan what order you'd want to blow those abilities in because of their different cooldown times.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't even think of that yet, but that is a great point, especially if you're looking at basic abilities even, or the heroics are obviously the most important. If you throw a mosh pit off before the battle begins, it's got a huge cooldown, or even a maw. A lot of you'd have to know a lot about the cooldowns.
You really would. And it would be great, too, because it could help bait out a heroic that would otherwise cost you a team fight.
Oh, yeah, because people are going to start throwing, you bait your heroic with your ability, but then people are going to be like freaking out. So they start throwing their heroics down, and they're all, like you said, they're all confused and just running around trying to salvage everything that they have left.
Exactly. I think Yogg-Saron would approve.
I think he would. Especially in the Hearthstone, Yogg-Saron would definitely approve of some craziness like that. Oh, yeah. I love the craziness. I really want that. I really want something to happen to a hero in the future where it throws somebody's abilities off. Maybe it changes the order of the buttons on the thing. So something like that just throws people off for a while would be sort of fun, mind games, trippy, right?
It would be. And I think silence kind of does that already, because you get silence, you go, oh, my buttons aren't working. My buttons aren't working.
Exactly. Take it to the next level, though. That's what I think. Super cool. I love that one. Okay, great. Let's hear your second heroic ability.
The second one is called Thorim Rising. And Thorim is brought back from the dead. He is shot to the ground next to her via the Bifrost. He slowly stands, readying his hammer for the coming battle. While Thorim is alive, Sif cannot be damaged. Thorim attacks in two ways. The first is by hitting those that venture too close to his hammer, Krolmir. However, if no one is close enough to hit, he auto-picks his second, which is to call down the power of lightning to deal heavy damage to his enemies from afar.
This is so awesome to be able to just have that Bifrost drop him down in battle. The animation would be so cool, Oh, I love it.
I was thinking Marvel's Thor. I love the first Thor movie. It's such a solid film.
It is. It's very good. And, it takes a bit of someone that likes that fantasy feel. So some Marvel fans aren't huge, but I love it. I think it's great. But I'm picturing it. She calls him down and so tell me, because I have a few questions. Do you think that his model in the game would be massive, big, or would he be the same size as all of the other heroes on the team?
I think he'd be on the larger end of the hero models, so probably Cho'Gall at max. He wouldn't be enormous because Sif is a little smaller than he is in the raid, but not by too much. And I didn't want him to be a raid boss.
Right. But still, it'll have a great raid boss feel. There's something so cool to me about summoning. Those are some of my favorite heroes or characters in any game. So summoning the skeletons or even the gargantuan that comes up from the ground, or when Zagara can summon from the skies and all that stuff. I love it. So just picturing Thorim coming down, just crashing into where the battle is just a cool image in my mind. So he has his own health pool?
He would, yes. And then, of course, it would be up to the enemy team to decide whether they would want to engage or take the punishment of the damage from far away and try to retreat back far enough that they wouldn't be damaged by the lightning.
So is he also on a timer?
Yes, he would have to be, I think.
Yeah.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah, because I think people would just
abuse the ability.
Yeah, and a good strat for that would be like, oh crap, we stand no chance, because you said Sif is also invulnerable at that time. So I mean, an assassin that's invulnerable with this giant, summon coming down and helping, that just sounds so cool.
It's kind of like Kerrigan's Ultralisk, except if the Ultralisk were actually Ultralisk size.
Right.
Because I want that Ultralisk to do more. He's so cute, small, and compact, but they're so big in StarCraft, and they're menacing. And
yeah, no, we want the heroic-sized Ultralisk, those giant... Yeah, because they're huge in StarCraft, like you said. I love that ability. Very good. I love it. My second heroic ability, I'm calling Touch of Dominion. So this is a crazy one. I'm not sure if it'll work in the game, but what I was thinking was, when this ability is activated on a friendly hero, they are under the will of Yogg-Saron for a short period of time. They are given a very powerful version of frost armor, complete with the slow for enemies that attack them. So they're oozing this, frost armor. The difference is that they are now the only hero that is targetable by the enemy. If they are eliminated by the enemy team while this ability is active, all remaining heroes on the friendly team are destroyed. This ability would force the enemy to focus on one hero, most likely the tank, and give Sif and the rest of the team a significant time to not be targeted.
I don't think that's too OP at all. That's great. I love it. Oh. I don't even have words at the moment. I'm still trying to piece together the language to talk about this ability.
So yeah, so basically I'm just thinking of a different way to force taunt. You know, because there's another thing that we always talk about on the show is how can we get taunt into this game? Because taunt is such a cool concept, and you know it works in other games, and this is a team-based brawler, so it doesn't really compute in the same way, obviously.
Exactly. So you have to think outside of the box. You have to give the enemy team a reason to attack just one person. And the fact that you could wipe the entire enemy team by killing that one hero, I think that would be enough to tempt the enemy team into trying a full-on 5-man offensive onto that one hero.
Yeah, and then all of your other heroes on your team are trying to do two things. They're trying to wipe out the enemy team because they can't be targeted, and two, keep that hero alive. So you imagine it pops on an ETC, so the ETC goes in there and can take, you know, more damage because he does have an enhanced shield, and when people attack him, they are slowed. But still the same health pool, and if they destroy ETC, then they win that team fight, basically. Everyone's going to just blow up. So I'm already picturing like a Sif in this build, if you chose this ability, would be a great off healer, because if you had a Morales that was feeding health to this person that was activated by this ability, it would be a lot more powerful.
Oh, it would be. You wouldn't be able to kill them, not even a little bit. And could you imagine too if you actually put it on an assassin who had that double support? Because then I think that assassin would probably be viable in terms of being able to live through a full 5-man team assault. Because you'd have to assume the other team has a healer, so not too much damage. So 4 other people who could do significant
Yeah.
damage.
So maybe the Morales aspect makes the ability OP, but maybe not. You'd have to try it. It'd have to be really balanced. You'd have to feel that it was a fair choice on both ends. You'd have to feel that you had the ability to stay alive, and you'd also have to feel on the enemy team that you had the ability to wipe them out, and it was just always a 50-50 chance, you know?
Exactly. And then how big would the range be for that dry ice frost slow? Would it be bigger since it's a heroic, or smaller in order to give the enemy team a chance to maneuver?
I think it's going to be about the same size, like the same size as the normal one, but it just lasts the entire length of the heroic ability. So on the Frost Shield basic ability, her Q in my build, when you activate it, it kind of oozes out for a short period of time. So the counter to that is to let the shield stop oozing by the time you attack them.
You can say it, Jeff. You
What?
can choose to let it go.
Oh, I was so close to making my specialty skin Elsa, but I did not.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I'm sure the temptation was bigger than any you've experienced in life thus far.
The temptation, yes. Oh, gosh. Anyway, the temptation is one word for it. What I'm thinking, though, is that for this, because I had this thought, this is a little off topic, sorry about this, but I'm thinking, you know, when you play, her name, I believe, is Sumatra in Overwatch.
Yes.
And at the very beginning of the game, you can just pop shields on people before the game even starts. You're in the holding area and you just put shields on everyone. So I didn't want everyone to be able to slow the enemy if they were attacked with that feel. So it doesn't last forever. But in this heroic, I feel that it would last the length of the ability, which would make it stronger.
Gotcha. And then I'm assuming the ability has a limited time.
Yeah, it will only last for a selected amount of time for the enemy to have the window to destroy that one hero to kill everyone, and also for them on the friendly team to be immune.
Gotcha. So when the timer ends, does that targeted friendly unit lose all of the shields that they had and goes back to full health, or do they retain some of the shield?
I'm thinking that they just, whatever their health is at when the timer goes off, like when this heroic is ended, is where they're at. So they get this big shield and then they go for it.
Gotcha. And I like to envision visually that it's probably a huge visual marker that they're just covered in ice or something, tromping around. And with each hit from the enemy team, each percentage the shield goes down, a chunk of armor flies off.
Yeah.
So that visually you can see how close you're getting.
That would be so cool. And I'm just thinking now that it may be an OP hero ability when it comes to capturing objectives, right? So let's say that you pop this ability and you just hide. So Sif puts it on a tank, the tank hides, and then everyone else is immune, so they run on in and capture the objective, right? So maybe we would have to add some sort of range that people would have to be in order to be immune.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good to kind of limit it so that they can't just camp objectives. Right. As fun as that is.
Oh, so fun on both sides. But yeah, so it needs work, but that's just a basic idea that I had. It's a crazy, crazy idea. And speaking of crazy ideas, let's move on to the craziest of them all, the specialty skins. This is where we talk a little bit about the crazy skin that would be included if this hero was in the game. Kristen, I want to hear your crazy skin idea.
Okay, so this one's not too crazy, but in the raid, she kind of had a dress on and stuff. So I want her in full Viracool armor. So this would be Viracool Sif. And though not exactly dressed as a full warrior in Ulduar, Viracool Sif has refound her battle armor. Atop her head sits a horned helm, while shield and sword fill her hands. Because if you're the wife of Thorim, or were the wife of Thorim, he wouldn't let his lady walk around without some awesome battle armor.
Oh, for sure. And that at least would have to be the level 10 heroic skin. Or, yeah, when you get to level 10, that skin, it would have to be something like that. Because, oh, yeah, the horns and the whole, that'd be really neat.
Like full-on Norse mythology. Maybe the breastplate has Yggdrasil carved into it.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
I mean, the not Yggdrasil, the blizzard Yggdrasil.
Right. Oh, so cool. I love it. Mine's a little off the wall and crazy. I said she'd be Dr. Freeze from the Batman.
Nice.
Batman comics. Not, Arnold Schwarzenegger Dr. Freeze, but like actual Dr. Freeze. And but I do think that she would have some really cheesy one-liners like the Arnold Schwarzenegger one. Maybe she would say like, "Stay cool."
Exactly. Well, Arnold came up with some of the best lines we've ever heard in the English language in that movie. I dare say Shakespearean in nature. The puns, the wordplay. Yeah. Wasn't it Batman and Robin?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. If you've never seen Batman and Robin, listeners, I highly suggest you take an afternoon to really, really enjoy the beauty of that version of Batman.
Beauty is one thing, but I'm not sure that movie is beautiful. But
okay, so I got it. So Batman the Animated Series, Dr. Freeze?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it would still be Sif. So she would wear the helmet, the glass helmet, and the goggles, and she'd be in there. And I just thought that would be really cool because I'm picturing her, using the Mr. Freeze weapons. He's got a bunch of different weapons to like freeze the ground for the one move where everybody slides, or shooting that orb that shoots abilities out of it. I don't know. It was something silly.
Yeah, and you could also have a very serious moment where occasionally, I don't know, she'll be against a wall and her frozen husband's body will appear and she'll kind of sadly touch it, drop her head, and then go back to battle.
Building the suspense and drama one hero at a time. This is HeroesForge. This is what we're all about. It is great. I think with all of those awesome abilities, we can most definitely say that this hero was forged.
HeroesForge.
Wow, two completely different builds for Sif here. Over on my side, building a support character who's untargetable, who would have abilities to give friendly heroes frost armor, summoning icicles that shoot up from the ground that do body blocks, being able to increase movement speed, shooting frozen orbs, and even being able to make your whole team immune except for one player who they could target and then kill the entire team if they eliminate them. Over on Kristen's side, an assassin build, being able to also be untargetable, being able to teleport and also blasting as you come out of the teleport, a total assassin trait, being able to do a snowball volley, just changing the way that we think of frost mages or Jaina inside of Heroes of the Storm, being able to actually set a AoE area of storm that she can move around to do different damage to heroes, which is unheard of in the game right now, to be able to do that. Having some awesome heroic abilities, being able to probe the minds of enemies and use their abilities for them, and then even summoning down her husband to fight for her and making her immune during the battle. So cool, Kristen.
Yep, and I have to say, I think we did a darn good job differentiating her from Jaina, because as we mentioned at the top of the show, the biggest challenge with Sif was making her her own Frost character, because a lot of, basically all of her abilities in the raid are with ice.
Yeah, and it's tough too, because there's not a whole lot on Sif. You know, there's not a whole lot of background. Well, there's thick background, but there's not a whole lot of it. You know, when we do a character like Deckard Cain or someone, you know, that's been around forever and as a pivotal character through the entire storyline of the game, it's easier. So this is fun on two levels, though, because we can kind of imagine or create theory craft ideas for this character, and we're not so held back, you know?
Exactly. We get to branch out the creativity a little bit. And I like it too, because you have to kind of go back to the source texts as well. Because Sif, they didn't even change her name. Unlike
right.
Thorim, where they added an IM, and yeah. Loki, who they dropped the I and added EN for Loken. But Sif, they kept her the same, which was very, very interesting, I thought.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Maybe they don't think she's a huge important part of the raid, especially in the hard mode when she's, you know, there and doing all that stuff. So maybe they just couldn't come up with something.
Maybe not, or maybe they just liked her so much they didn't even want to change her name.
And they don't need to, because it's a really cool story and it's a really cool aspect to that raid. So check out videos of YouTube if you haven't seen it. It's a really cool fight, and some people are very talented and can show you how to do it very quickly with 3 people sometimes. So it's entertaining to check it out on YouTube. Speaking of, there's a whole ton of ways that you can check out our show, Heroes Forge. And the first of them is our website. It's heroesforge.club. Make sure you head on over there. We do this Forger Spotlight every single month, usually on the 3rd week. And again, we really want to thank the community for giving us a bunch of ideas, and especially this week we want to thank the True Villain Manny for sending us the idea for Sif, because it was a blast. So that's Forger Spotlight. Make sure you check it out, and you can submit your ideas on that website, heroesforge.club, or like I said at the beginning of the show, you can email them to us, contactheroesforge@gmail.com. We stream every Sunday night right here on Amove, on Amove's Twitch channel. You can find that at twitch.tv/Amove TV, and you can also find all those other awesome esports and video game podcasts at amove.tv. Check them out. Really, really check them out, because they are great as always. You can find us on Twitter at Forge Heroes. Over there, we announce what hero we'll be forging on Sunday at the end of the previous week. So you get a little sneak peek over there, and any Heroes news that comes our way, we retweet it out there. You make sure you like us on YouTube, youtube.com/HeroesForge, and download the show on iTunes or your favorite podcasting app. If there's an app out there that we aren't on and you want to get us on there, shoot us an email, and we will try our best to get out there for you. Again, if you'd like to support the show, we have a Patreon website. It's patreon.com/HeroesForge. Over there, you can help support the show and help us achieve some of our Patreon goals and bring you guys more content. Kristen, where can people find you in the interwebs?
People can find me at Dream Destroyer. That's DRMDESTRYR over at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Patreon. And also my battletobebetter.weebly.com health and fitness blog. Used to be ripped for BlizzCon, but I wanted to be more inclusive of the entire sci-fi, fantasy, nerd, geek community at large.
It's a great name, like we talked about last week. I love it. So what is going over on your blog? What's going on right now? What are you focusing on?
Well, this week I am releasing a little bit about how to find where to begin, because we think health magazines and we think bodybuilding magazines and websites would be helpful, but in actuality, they're pretty deceptive.
Really? That sounds like an interesting read. Yeah, especially all of the images and the models and all of that kind of stuff can be deceptive. They show somebody, I'm imagining they show somebody, super fit on the cover and they say, lose 40 pounds in 3 days.
Exactly. And if you didn't know, 40 pounds in 3 days is generally not considered to be very healthy.
Right. Unless you're losing a limb or something. And
Yeah, exactly.
very cool. Everybody check that out. Tons of people to thank. Thank you, Dan Anigan, for being our first patron. Thank you, True Villain Manny, for being our Forger Spotlight this week. Thank you, all of our listeners out there. And I really want to thank again the Smart Kale for the 5-star iTunes review. The show is going places, and it's all because of all of our listeners out there. You guys are awesome. Send us your ideas because we want to get them all in onto the show. And I think we're going to call it there. We're going to say that that hero was forged, and we had a blast. And we'll see you all in the real world.